on a dating variety show. The movie star and I were asked what we liked about our first love. He lowered his head and smiled shyly. She was sitting next to me at that time. I got 140 points in math. And she got 14 points in math. I wanted to see what was in her head. I sneered repeatedly. I got 90 points in history. And he got 3 points in history. I wanted to see what kind of Japanese invaders he was. When I saw Deandra's interview, I had just been on the hot search because I was caught reading novels on the set. In the video, I was holding the script and reading it with relish. In the next second, the camera was enlarged. And the phone in the script was exposed. On the screen was clearly the popular romance novel recently. So even female celebrities love to read. The overbearing president falls in love with me? Seriously. I read novels secretly like this when I was in school. Ask for a book list like that of a female celebrity. Wait. Sisters. Have you seen Deandra's hot search? Why do I think it's so strange? Seeing this one, I was also a little curious and clicked on Deandra's hot search. It was a video of his interview. The host asked him, "Have you ever done anything wrong to others?" Deandra was stunned for a few seconds and smiled embarrassed lie. Yes. In high school, my desk mate was caught crying while reading a novel in class. Then I told the teacher that she was crying because she was angry that she was never called to answer questions. My fist gradually tightened. Deandra continued. Later, the teacher called on her every class. She was so angry that she blacklisted me. The whole screen was filled with bullet comments laughing. Only I, with a click, crushed the potato chips in my hand to pieces. Because the hapless desk mate, who was made to answer questions for a semester because of Deandra, was me. Moreover, perhaps fearing that there was a problem with my psychology, the teacher told all the teachers in the office on the same day that they must ask me questions in class in the future. Don't dampen my enthusiasm for learning. From that day on, I basically didn't sit down during class. Although my grades rose straight up, I still didn't talk to Deandra for nearly half a month. At the end of the video, the hot search had already exploded. What a coincidence. Melanie was just caught reading novels on the set. I seem to know something amazing. May I ask if I don't understand? Is this a new way of creating a CP? Or are they really high school classmates? Some people even reminded me that it's best not to stay in the same crew as Deandra in the future. I stared at this comment and gave her a thumbs up. If there are no surprises, it won't happen. Because Deandra and I haven't talked for almost half a year. Deandra and I broke up half a year ago. In order to avoid entanglements with each other, I specially found an excuse that he couldn't refute. I said that I hate men who even share with me when they go to the toilet. Deandra was deeply hurt by me at that time. Because he is a chatterbox. The kind who could die on the spot, if there is a Cold War for 10 minutes. Therefore, after we broke up, we deleted all contact information. We even tried our best to avoid breathing the same air as each other. I will definitely not appear at events where he is present. And Deandra, as the publicity committee member in the circle, as long as it is a work in which I participate, he will definitely not book the whole venue. The relationship between us can be said to be incompatible. However, after seeing the popularity of me and her being tied together, the company was tempted. They even spent a high price to invite Deandra and let us appear on a dating variety show together. I refused on the spot. Are you kidding? We agreed to never have any contact with each other. But Sister Song, my agent, gave me a sideways glance. Are you going to be at odds with money? I immediately deflated. After a while, she comforted me again. You don't have to do much. Just go and participate for a few episodes to gain some popularity. After it's over, things will be the same as before. I was still silent. We quarreled so fiercely when we broke up. Now we have to appear on a dating variety show together. Who came up with this idea? Sister Song sat beside me and persuaded me patiently. Now that everyone is speculating that the high school classmate who was tricked by Deandra is you. It just so happens that you can take advantage of this popularity. When the real person comes out, it's okay. You haven't admitted it. Right? Come to think of it. She doesn't know that I was in a relationship with Deander. After Sister Song persuaded me for a few words and lost patience. She directly used her trump card. If you don't agree, I'll post all your novel browsing records on Weibo. I was shocked. Don't. I'll go. I don't only read pure romance novels. If my browsing records are posted online, I will definitely be socially dead. After all, reading everything will only make me have a balanced diet. Sister Song acted quickly. A few days after I agreed, she packed me up and sent me to the dating variety show. On the first day of filming, the guests were asked what they liked about their first love. Among those present, some praised good personalities and some praised good looks. Only Deander lowered his head and smiled shyly. She was sitting next to me at that time. I got 140 points in math. And she got 14 points in math. I really wanted to see what was in her head. Beside me. I couldn't help but sneer. So, haven't you seen someone who got 0 points in math? Who hasn't been partial to a subject? He even failed in a subject at that time. A smile flashed across Deandra's eyes. I've seen it. In the third mock exam, she only guessed one multiple-choice question correctly in math. But because she didn't trust herself and changed it, in the end, she got 0 points. I had a mouthful of old blood stuck in my throat. Before I could adjust my expression, the camera turned to me. I glared at Deander and continued on this topic. He got 3 points in history at that time. I wanted to see what kind of Japanese invaders he was. Deandra's smile froze. I proudly raised my eyebrows. Moreover, he was always happy every day. I thought he was brave to face his shortcomings and I liked him. As soon as these words came out, everyone except Deander was laughing, including the bullet comments. I said you two shouldn't be so obvious. One got 14 points in math, and the other got 3 points in history. What kind of outstanding talents are these? I'm very worried about their children. With this combination, is there any subject they are good at? Lock them up quickly and let them get back together. I'll swallow the key. Because of the high discussion degree, Weibo even set off a wave of topics about what one's partner likes about oneself. I asked my boyfriend what he liked about me. He said that for the first time, he saw someone who could throw a shot put -1 meter. She was so stupid that he especially liked it. Who can understand this? He said that for the first time, he saw someone's eye boogers shining like Monkey King and was fascinated by it. But that was my highlight. No kidding. My boyfriend got 6 points in politics. I want to see how immoral he is. He said he had never seen someone who could fly a paper airplane onto the teacher. My boyfriend is particularly good at hide and seek. It's been more than 10 years and I still haven't found him. Because of the high popularity, Deander and I were forcibly put in a group. The dating locations of other couples are movie theaters and hot pot restaurants. Only Deander and I are in a haunted house. Horror theme. The kind that requires solving problems to get out. Looking at the task card in my hand, I asked cautiously, what kind of questions? If it's math, forget it. I'll be trapped to death inside. The director smiled mysteriously. The kind you are best at. I stared at him for a minute and didn't see any sign of lying on his face. Immediately, I felt confident. Before entering the haunted house, I even patted Deander on the shoulder. Don't be afraid. I'll try to get out quickly. Deandra's lips twitched. But he didn't speak. At the beginning, the questions were not very difficult. And Deander and I cooperated very well. But suddenly, the atmosphere began to become terrifying. Deander and I were walking on the road, when an NPC rushed out from the nearby room and dragged me away. I screamed and turned around and hugged Deandra's waist tightly. Deander thus started a tug-of-war with the NPC. Deander really naturally reached out, and put his arms around her. NPC, keep going. Film more. I love to watch it. Seeing that he couldn't Deander, the NPC could only let go and called a few more people. Deander and I panicked and hid in a small dark room nearby. As soon as the door was closed, the sound of the small dark room automatically locking rang. Suddenly, a voice came from the radio. The next 3 questions will be answered by Deander. Melanie cannot see all the questions. She can provide clues. Please abide by the rules. Otherwise, enter the small dark room for 5 minutes. Hearing this, I suddenly had a bad premonition. Sure enough, it was a history question that Deander was least good at. And there were pitfalls everywhere in the questions. The bullet comments were already in an uproar. Is Deandra's half-step back movement serious? For the first time, I saw someone's smile disappear faster than the money in my wallet. I estimate that we won't be able to get out of this haunted house in 3 hours. Come on. Yuzo. It's up to you. I was taken to the room next to Deander. Looking at the several obvious time points on the question, I sighed. Deander hated memorizing timetables the most when he was in school. How can I give him hints for this? While I was still thinking, Deander had already started making mistakes. Seeing that he was about to choose the most absurd answer without hesitation, I quickly stopped him. Stop. Deandra's body trembled and he obediently withdrew his hand. After thinking for a long time, I still gave Deander clues using various homophonic jokes. As a result, the last question was actually math. The radio reminded timely, this question will be completed under Deandra's guidance. The answer can be directly given, but the process must be written by Melanie. My legs went weak and I almost knelt on the ground. Deander couldn't save my math grades in 3 years of high school. Now we have to complete this task with this. How is this possible? Deander rolled up his sleeves, with a smile on his brows and eyes. Come on. I'll explain it to you. In just an instant. My eyes were red. Don't ask. If you ask, it's because I was scared by math. Melanie is about to cry. See, one is not good at history and the other is not good at math. I wonder who doesn't admit that they are each other's first love. Where is the haunted house? Avoid it. People who get 10 points in math should stay away. This question is very simple. I could do it in 20 minutes before. Unfortunately, I am a college student now. No, it's so difficult. Are you going to force Melanie to take the postgraduate entrance examination? The bullet comments were full of joy. Back then, I was so partial to subject that the math teacher rubbed his hands and asked me if I had any opinions about him. Deander obviously also understood that I was born without half a brain for learning math. He thought for a while and bent down and said in my ear, I'll read the process for you and you write it. Anyway, it said that the answer can be told to you. My eyes lit up. But soon, neither Deander nor I could laugh anymore. I didn't recognize various math symbols at that time. And I don't remember them even more now. After he read for a long time, I only wrote down a few letters. Deander took a few deep breaths, wrote a few formulas on the paper, and then continued in a low voice. I've circled the symbols for you. Read the answer again. I sighed and tried hard for a long time. Finally, I completed that question. Later, Deander was almost holding my hand and teaching me to write. Seeing that my eyes were almost swollen from crying, the program team didn't say anything, and just let me and Deander go. Anyway, all the sweet moments have been recorded and there are topics. If it continues, those who will be tortured will become them. After all, no one wants to listen to the same math problem 10 times. No one. After completing the task in the haunted house, Deander and I joined the other guests. The other guests were all sweet and affectionate, but only Deander and I had expressionless faces, as if our essence had been drained. The actress Rodrigo, who is on good terms with me, curiously came over. Didn't you go to play in the haunted house? Why do you look like this? When she came over, she was still holding flowers. I sighed, probably because we were tortured for an afternoon. She looked at me and then at Deander, as if she understood something. So she stuffed the flowers into my arms. Hold it for me for a while. It's too tiring. She was so strong that I took 2 steps back. just in time to fall into Diendra's arms. He was on the phone with one hand and subconsciously supported me with the other. Rodrigo made a victory sign and even mouthed to me, "I can only help you this far." I glared at her. Just at this moment, Deander hung up the phone and took the flowers in my hand. "For me? Thank you." When he said this, the corners of his mouth almost reached the back of his ears. Oh, look at his worthless appearance. He still knows to say thank you. You are so polite. Melanie was stunned. I was just about to say that this wasn't for him when I saw that he had already gone around showing off with the flowers. When the young couple was preparing ingredients together, he walked over holding the flowers and swayed around. "You asked me what I'm having for dinner tonight? Oh, right. Yuzo just gave me a bouquet of flowers." When people were looking at the night view on one side, he walked past behind them. "The night view is really beautiful. But it's not as beautiful as the flowers Yuzo gave me." Seeing that he was about to dance in front of Rodrigo, I rushed up and grabbed him. "This flower is just for me to hold for Rodrigo. It's not for you." The smile on Diendra's face disappeared immediately. He stuffed the flowers into my arms. "Then give it back to you. It doesn't matter if I don't receive a gift." He looked very aggrieved. Oh, he's still aggrieved. "It doesn't matter if I don't receive a gift." Translation: everyone else has a gift. But I don't. I'm so angry and aggrieved. Diendra's resentment can feed 10 evil swordsmen. I felt a little guilty and planned to return the flowers to Rodrigo and then order a bouquet for Deander. There was no way. I had to coax him. When I was on my way to find Rodrigo, Deander followed behind me. He didn't say anything either. He just looked at me with a resentful look. It made my back feel chilly. No way. If I don't coax him well tonight, I guess I won't be able to sleep in the middle of the night. Thinking of this, I quickened my pace. As soon as I saw Rodrigo, I stuffed the flowers into her. "Your flowers. Take them quickly." Rodrigo looked at Deander behind me and understood again. She pretended to be surprised. "Isn't this flower from you to Deander? What are you giving it to me for? Did you have a fight?" I widened my eyes. Deander had already stood next to me at some point. Since hearing Rodrigo's words, the corners of his mouth couldn't stop rising. When I looked at him, he pretended to be serious again. His face was like having a spasm. Rodrigo pushed the flowers back into my arms and kept winking. "If you want to give it, just give it. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you're embarrassed, shall I give it for you?" As soon as Rodrigo's words came out, Deander consciously took the flowers. "No need to trouble you." Looking at his happy appearance, I didn't have the heart to him again after all. In the end, the bullet comments were all cooperating. "Wow, Yuzo is so thoughtful. The flowers are really beautiful. Deander is so happy. Giving flowers is really so romantic." They were even afraid that it wasn't realistic enough. So they faked it on various social platforms. Successfully sent me and Deander on the hot search. Melanie: Deander gives flowers. Deander: he loves it so much. Deander: how do you know Yuzo gave me flowers? When I saw these hot searches, I couldn't help glancing at Deander. He was sitting there replying to fans' comments, and hadn't put down the flowers. I tentatively said, "You're not going to hold it and sleep with it tonight, are you?" How uncomfortable that would be. Deander actually thought seriously for a few seconds. "Sleeping with it is definitely not possible. It will wither by tomorrow morning." I breathed a sigh of relief and thought about finding an opportunity to give Deander another gift quickly. Otherwise, looking at this bouquet of flowers every day, I would really feel guilty. Because I played a horror-haunted house and did math problems in the afternoon, I had a nightmare directly at night. I dreamed that Deander turned into a zombie. I had to do 100 math problems to make him return to normal. In the dream, I didn't hesitate at all, and started memorizing formulas and doing problems. But as I was doing it, I broke down. I couldn't finish it. I couldn't finish it at all. Looking at Deandra's handsome face starting to grow white hair, I burst into tears. While crying, I also reached out to take the formula on another table. Then, I directly fell off the bed. When I woke up, my tears hadn't dried yet. Deander heard the noise and came in. What he saw was me sitting on the ground, crying so hard that I couldn't catch my breath. Did you hurt from falling or did you have a nightmare? I wiped away my tears. Both. I dreamed that you mutated. It scared me to death. Deander picked me up from the ground and casually asked, "What did you turn into? So scared? You even fell on the ground? Just say you're worried about me. Why are you crying? For the sake of face." I blurted out, "Who's worried about you? After you mutated. You're so ugly that I was scared and cried." Deander didn't seem to believe it. He got up and went to the bathroom to twist a towel to wipe my face. Seeing that he seemed to be in a good mood, I repeated, "It's really not because I'm worried about you." Deander nodded and let me continue to lie down and sleep. Before leaving, he couldn't help but ask me, "What did I look like after I mutated? It scared you like this?" I pulled up the quilt. "Your whole body is covered in white hair. Your eyes are green. And there are fangs." Deandra's face darkened. "Go to sleep quickly. I'll leave the light on for you. If you're scared, call me." Oh. The later activity is to make a dish that the other person loves. Deander and I cooked by ourselves when we lived together before, so we were not afraid at all. But Deander didn't seem to be in a good state. He either cut his hand or got burned by oil when cooking. In the end, the dish was made, but Deandra's hands were covered in wounds. I had to treat his wounds first. While applying medicine, I mocked him. "Deander, it hasn't been long. How come you can't cook anymore?" Deander gasped in pain. "No one eats the food I cook. I'm too lazy to cook for myself." TSK. Classmate Xiaozhang is starting to act pitiful again to win Melanie's sympathy. "Melanie, eat the food he made. Look at how pitiful the child is. No wonder Deander gained weight some time ago. It turns out he was eating takeout. Sister Kiao, bandage him quickly. The wound will heal soon." Deander watched me bandage him, and suddenly said, "Wrap it one more round. In case it gets infected by water, and it hurts even more." I gave him a blank look. "What's the point of wrapping it so thick? In summer, are you trying to breed maggots?" Deander pursed his lips and didn't speak anymore. The bullet comments started to laugh at him unscrupulously. Yuzo's eyes are almost rolled to the sky. Funny. Deandra's act of being pitiful failed. "Melanie, don't pretend in front of me." Deander used the excuse that his hand was inconvenient and kept following me. As soon as I scolded him, he would pitifully cover his hand. "Only by standing next to you won't it hurt." I had to let him continue to follow. Because Deander was injured, we didn't participate in the evening activities and stayed in the villa. I curled up on the sofa and continued to read the novel that I had been following some days ago. During this time, Deander kept trying to attract my attention. "What are you reading? Is it good? I'm so bored. Can you send me a link? I want to read it too. Is the novel more beautiful than me? Pay attention to me." At this moment, I was seeing the sweetest moment and was writhing on the sofa like a maggot. Deander was still chattering. "You've been reading for so long. It's time to look at me for a while. Right?" I glared at him. "Shut up." Deander really shut up. Then I lay back on the sofa and continued to wriggle. After I finished reading an article, I found that he was still sitting in the same place, looking at me eagerly. I subconsciously turned my phone upside down and asked him what he wanted. Just as Deander was about to speak, the other guests rushed in hurriedly. They were all drenched. It was raining outside, so their outdoor activities could only be cancelled. According to the netizens' votes, the program team asked us to play games together. The one who dies first in the game will randomly answer questions from netizens. Even to test tacit understanding, they have to write on the whiteboard together. I sat next to Deander and was a little nervous. "You must survive to the end later. I will definitely be eliminated first." Deander said confidently that it wouldn't happen. Rodrigo was right next to us. Hearing this, she raised her eyebrows at me. He's really confident in you. Deander also smiled. She will definitely win. I didn't believe it myself. But in the next game, while shouting for Deander to save me, I fanned away 2 guests with a salted fish. Even when I was about to fall and be eliminated, as long as I shouted, "Save me," I could successfully push down a guest. Deander and I won the championship without a doubt. Rodrigo was amazed. "You are so fierce." While asking for help, you've fanned away several people. Deander explained. She played games like this before. Every time she shouted "Save me," we would definitely win. I nudged him with my elbow and told him not to talk nonsense. The bullet comments were all in "we understand" mode. Melanie is so stubborn. Still covering up until now. I'm so curious about how Deander offended her that he doesn't even have a title. I guess it's because Deander disturbed her while she was reading novels. Oh, then Deander deserved it. I thought Deander and I could win all night. But unexpectedly, after a few rounds, we started losing continuously. I moved my fingers and said to Deander, "This skin is unlucky. Let's go and change it quickly." After changing more than a dozen sets of skins, Deander and I still didn't win. We could only start answering netizens' questions. The director looked like he had finally succeeded and started reading the questions. "May I ask why the 2 of you agreed to come on this variety show?" I wrote truthfully. "My agent threatened me. If I didn't come, she would share my book list. I don't want to be socially dead. So I came." But what Deander wrote was, "Because the person I like is here." The scene and the bullet comments were all silent for a few seconds. Deander, I understand. So I'm still not as important as your novels. Deander was directly stunned. So what book is Melanie reading exactly? Why is she afraid of the agent exposing it? I seem to understand and want to ask for a book list. I also want one. I silently covered my face with the whiteboard. Deander glanced at me and sighed deeply. The second question is to name 3 shortcomings of the other person. I peeked at Deandra's whiteboard. He covered it tightly and I didn't see anything. Time is up. The whiteboards are shown. What Deander wrote was, "None." What I wrote was, "Talkative 3. I looked at Deander for a few seconds, and then looked away guiltily. Deander is not honest at all. We clearly agreed to write the truth. And when we quarreled and broke up, he listed more than 30 shortcomings of me. But in front of the camera, there's nothing. The bullet comments are already going crazy. Deander, all these years of love and time were really wasted. How talkative is Deander? To answer the person upstairs. Just now when Melanie was reading a novel, he chattered beside her for half an hour just to get her to pay attention to him. So it can be seen that he is really talkative. Help. I really start to feel sorry for Deander. If we keep asking like this, his heart will be broken into pieces. The director obviously realized this too. So the last question is for oneself. Several guests started to tease him around. While no one was paying attention, I put my hands together in front of Deander. "Sorry. I just wrote it casually." Deander snorted coldly and ignored me. From that day on, outside of the camera, Deander became very quiet. Even if I deliberately found topics, he would never say 2 words if 1 word would do. Even if we were very close in front of the camera, netizens still saw something was wrong. What's wrong? Could it be that they had a fight? It's obviously very sweet. But it looks like acting. No, they won't end up badly. Right? I like a couple so much for the first time. Hurry up and talk things out. For a while, the whole network was urging me and Deander to make up. Someone even dug up a video. Deander and I were wearing high school uniforms and being interviewed together. In the video, I was answering questions seriously while Deander was looking at me seriously. When asked about the city we wanted to go to, we said to completely opposite directions. Deander touched the back of his head and suddenly said, "I just answered wrong. Actually, I like another city better. The video ended here. I took out my phone and wanted to send Deander a message. Are you free tonight? I'll treat you to dinner? Deander replied quickly. Still very few words. I waited for a few minutes and wanted to try harder. The phone suddenly got stuck. Immediately after that, there were dozens of messages from Deander. You said you didn't like men who talk a lot. I don't talk much now. Can we get back together? He sent this sentence one word at a time. I swiped several times to finish reading this sentence. For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Did Deander learn how to be aloof these days? I replied to him, yes. There was no news from him again. Before long, Deander himself appeared in front of me. He was clearly running here as he was out of breath. He stood in front of me and didn't say anything. I teased him. What? Are you hesitating whether to continue maintaining the aloof persona? Deander was a little aggrieved. You think I talk too much? Afraid that I wouldn't admit it. He started to list one by one. When we broke up, you said you hated men who even share with you when they go to the toilet. Then you ignored me. I endured for half a year. Finally, I could talk to you. But you still think I'm annoying. You even think this is a shortcoming. I coughed guiltily twice. That was just an excuse. I didn't really think you talked too much. How did I know he could endure not coming to find me for half a year? Deander asked me what the real reason was. I gritted my teeth and said, I've accumulated that book list for so long. It's fine if you want to read it. But you even lost them all. Of course I'm angry. Those were all painstakingly collected by me. Besides, I was still angry about this. But Deander actually sent me a message. Babe, I'm in the toilet now. Wait for me to finish and then pick you up. Who can understand this? Deander reports to me every time he goes to the toilet. When we were arguing, I couldn't bear it anymore and brought this up. But maybe we were both angry at that time. The argument got worse and we directly broke up. Deander looked at me for a long time, and finally realized what I meant by the book list. He picked me up from the sofa and took me back to the room. It's a small matter. I'll learn and write it down for you. Netizens were the first to notice that Deander and I got back together. On that day, the comment sections of my and Deandra's Weibo were like celebrating the new year. I've been waiting for several days. Finally, we made up. It was so close that I almost lost my side dish. So dangerous. Deander, be more careful next time. Fight less. Otherwise, I can't eat. I am the Civil Affairs Bureau. I came here by myself. Are you two going to get married? After that, on the grounds of satisfying the audience, Deander became even more clingy. In the last episode before the end of the variety show, everyone was a bit drunk, especially the director. Looking at me and Deander, he couldn't stop giggling when I first proposed to invite Xiaozhong to the variety show. As soon as he heard that you were coming, he directly agreed. Later, when I told him the price, guess what? He directly asked someone to transfer the money to my account. He also urged me to start filming quickly. If it's not enough, he can invest a little more. Fortunately, you two got back together. Otherwise, he would lose both money and love. I looked at Deander, who was frantically drinking water to cover up his embarrassment. I couldn't help but laugh. Deander took my hand and said proudly, as long as Yuzo pays attention to me, I'd be willing to pay 10 times more. My eyes lit up immediately. How about this? Give me 10 times the amount. I'll accompany you to get a marriage certificate. Deander has been pestering me about this for several days. I haven't agreed. It's not for other reasons. It's that the small dress I bought for getting the marriage certificate hasn't arrived yet. Today, as soon as I received it, he said he was willing to pay 10 times. Look at this situation. It's not appropriate for me not to agree. Deander suddenly turned to look at me. Are you serious? I tried my best to suppress the ecstasy of the huge sum of money about to be in my hands and nodded to him. Yes. This time, Let's not let the middleman make a profit. Just give it to me directly. The director, who was the middleman himself, grinned widely. Deander immediately took me and walked out. While walking, he didn't forget to transfer money to me. Later, someone asked why Deander and I disappeared at the end of the variety show. The director threw out the whole process of getting the marriage certificate that the camera teacher followed us and filmed and captioned it. These two people were afraid that the Civil Affairs Bureau would close, so they hurried to leave work first. The news of me and Deander getting the marriage certificate immediately spread all over the internet. Many friends in the circle called to congratulate. When Deander learned about this, he was almost fainted with anger. I was going to be the first to officially announce, but he actually took the lead. I watched him pacing back and forth and kindly reminded him, if you don't post it soon, you won't even be able to catch up with my first repost. Hearing this, Deander calmed down immediately. While taking out his phone and opening Weibo, he asked me not to post it yet so that fans wouldn't snatch the first repost. I pressed the send button only after he was ready. As soon as the Weibo was posted, Deander threw our phones aside. Okay. Let them repost. We should continue to study the novels you like to read. Our daughter inherited almost all of our advantages. Not only is she as delicate as a porcelain doll, but she also has a natural talent for acting. Therefore, before she went to school, Deander kept showing off his precious daughter everywhere, until the child just started school and got 70 points in math. I comforted myself by patting my chest and also comforted Deander. The child is still young. With tutoring, she can always improve. Besides, no one can be perfect. Deander immediately found a tutor to give the child lessons. Although her math grades are not outstanding, they are not dragging behind either. I thought that these were all the shortcomings she inherited. Later, when the child came back from math class and threw herself into my arms, she asked me, "Mom, what is a Japanese invader?" I asked her why she suddenly thought of this. She said, "I saw a video. Dad only got 3 points in history. You said you wanted to see what kind of Japanese invader he was." I sat up in shock. From a dying illness. Yes, she can inherit my weakness in math. What if she is also not good at history? I took precautions and read all kinds of historical stories with her. Finally, the danger of getting 3 points in history was nipped in the bud. In the middle of the night, I was lying on the bed and let out a long breath. Fortunately, her politics grade is also stable this time. Otherwise, I'm really afraid that the reason her future boyfriend likes her is because he wants to see how immoral she is. Deander laughed softly. I glared at him. What are you laughing at? If it weren't for you insisting on seeing what was in my head back then, would I be so afraid of her being partial to subjects? After so long, there are still people making jokes with that sentence of me and Deander. Don't I have any dignity? Deander came over and kissed me. It's okay. As long as she is herself. No matter what. Someone will like her. I snuggled into his arms and closed my eyes. Dangerous extra chapter. The first time I saw Melanie was in the office. The math teacher was full of worry and asked her, "Classmate Melanie, I see that your performance in other classes is very good. Why do you sleep in my class? Do you think there's something wrong with what the teacher teaches?" Melanie blushed and lowered her head and said, "You teach very well. It's just that I don't understand." I couldn't help laughing. The history teacher coughed lightly and glared at me. "What are you laughing at?" "Deander, you got only 3 points in history? I've taught students for more than 10 years. You are the first one." This time it was Melanie's turn to laugh. When we came out of the office, we agreed to tutor each other, but it was completely ineffective. I collected her math test paper with 14 points. She held my history test paper with 3 points. Later, she was caught crying while reading a novel in math class. In a hurry, I explained, "She is sad because you never call on her in class." A math teacher took a look at Melanie and comforted her. "Knowing your own shortcomings is a good thing. If there's anything in the future, you can communicate with the teacher." From that day on, Melanie was called on in every class. Not only that, the math teacher also told other teachers that they must give Melanie more opportunities to answer questions. Don't dampen her enthusiasm for learning. Melanie was so angry that she didn't talk to me for a long time later. Under the circumstances where both of them were partial to different subjects, we were admitted to the same university. On the day we got together, Melanie asked me what exactly I liked about her. I said, "I talk so much. You are the first one to pay attention to me. It's kind of cute." Melanie nodded. "Oh, it's because I've never met someone who talks as much as you. It's quite cute." I took this sentence to heart. In the years of being in love after that, the two of us would chat hundreds of times every day. Until, during an argument after graduating from college, she said that she hated people who even shared when they went to the toilet. Me, heartbroken. JPG, she actually found me annoying. I started learning how to be an aloof person. After practicing for half a year, I felt that I had made some progress. I tried every means to be on the same dating variety show as her. With my unremitting efforts, she agreed to marry me. We are finally complete.